Oh, yes.
Welcome back, everybody. Today I have a long overdue toy review. Here we're going to be looking at the War for Cybertron Siege Autobot Alphastrike Counterforce. It's Siege number 26, and for those not in the know, it is an Amazon exclusive here in the US, and it's actually part of a pair of box sets, matched up against the Decepticon Phantom Strike Squadron, which I'll be reviewing right after this one. And this particular box set is a 3-pack, and it consists of Combat Clone Sideswipe, who is obviously based off of the Generation 2 version of Sideswipe, Slamdance, a rather obscure cassette character from Generation 1, and here he's reimagined as a Duocon, and then a new character, a Battlemaster called Trenchfoot. So it's a very interesting pack. I'm always real big on the G2 recolors. They kind of, they hit my soft spot there. I really like them. But then, of course, we get a chance at owning Slamdance, which is, the first time that we've been able to do that since the original Generation 1 toy. So if you've seen my reviews before, you know how this goes. We're going to take a look at the packaging, look at the instructions, the toys themselves. I'm going to do some comparisons, some group shots, all that fun stuff. And then at the end of the video, I will give my final thoughts. So here you can see this really just gorgeous artwork. You got Sideswipe front and center. And again, he's called Combat Clone Sideswipe, implying that he is a clone of the original, which, is interesting because if you look at the last one of the IDW comics, there basically was a, can't say clone exactly, but a new Transformer born into the world that just happened to look like G2 Sideswipe. I don't think the two ever got a chance to meet before the original Sideswipe died, but, you could say he's kind of a clone of him. They even named him Sideswipe because of the resemblance. So I wonder if it was inspired by that. And it's also a really good in-universe way of explaining why there's another, Sideswipe running around, or, obviously there's no Generation 2 in the War for Cybertron. So it allows you to use your imagination. Put them on your G2 shelf, put them on your Siege shelf as, different character, whatever you want to do. Anywho, you got a Trenchfoot here, charging in, looking very dynamic. Slamdance flying overhead, blasting at somebody. Probably wondering, well, who's he blasting at? Well, I'm glad you asked. So, I said this was part of a pair. This is the box for the Phantom Strike Squadron, and they're designed to go together like so and create a complete picture that looks very, very cool. So something in the vein of the last batch of Amazon exclusives, which were the Prime Wars ones. You had Blast Off, Repugnus, and then Punch Counterpunch, and their 3 boxes went together to make a complete picture. So same thing here. You get this complete battle scene, which is just amazing. I love this. Love to be able to get a poster of this, put it up on my wall back there or something. But you can see Skywarp and his Battlemaster buddies charging in. You even get old Greenlight here making an appearance, which, she was another Amazon exclusive, so it's kind of cool seeing her get tied into all this. A nice little nod to the other product placement, right? So anyway, put this around. This just wraps around the picture a little bit. That's the name of the set. Back here, you got renders of our 3 guys, these steps that take transform, cross-sell for the Phantom Strike Squadron, regular Siege artwork there, and that's it. Here we have a rather large instruction book. You can see you got renders of our guys here, the names of the individual characters, name of the set, all that. This opens up long ways like so. So you got Slamdance's transformation to his vehicle modes. On the backside, you have Sideswipe's transformation, Trenchfoot's, compatibility, all that fun stuff. And on the edges here, you have their weapon loadouts. And Sideswipe, you can see he has a W10 Photo Pulsar Proton Launcher, and then a W5 Gyro Blaster, right there. And then you can combine the two to make an RR Gyrofuse Axle Switch Hyper Blaster. And that is a mouthful. So you can see with this set, they're still doing the whole combined weapon gimmick that they kind of dropped in later Seed releases. All right, on this side, we have Slamdance's weapons. You have a JF-10 A2A proton missile launcher. So that's the longer of the two weapons. Also forms this tank turret. You have a W10 smoke cloak blaster. So I guess that might enable him to make getaways or something. And then the combined weapon is an LR fume blast super launcher. So that shows you everything he's packing. So very cool. I like that they made the instructions big enough to cover everything in detail and, you know, not skimp on any of the steps or any of the weapon loadouts or anything. It's nice. All right, first we're going to take a look at Sideswipe. So here he is in his vehicle mode. You can see it's very sleek looking. It's mostly black with this really cool translucent red, you know, cockpit or windshield he's got going on there. His weapons are done in black and silver this time. He's got nice painted rims, which is cool. Pretty decent looking underside. I mean, there's kibble, but it's blocky enough to not really look like kibble, aside from the little mouth sticking out there. And yeah, rolls just fine, just like the other one. And he's more or less a color inversion of the first Sideswipe toy, which I have right here. You can see basically they just swap all the red and black around on them. So either one looks really nice. This looks, you know, like some kind of stealth car. This looks like something you drive for attention. But they're both very, very cool. And then for completion's sake, go ahead and throw in a little red alert there, just so you can see the whole set together. And, you know, they all make good use of this mold and try to do their own thing with it, which is really nice. Right here, Sideswipe's robot mode. And you can see I've opted to have him dual wield his guns, just because it does remind me of the double guns that he wields in the comics, in the G2 comics. And that also brings me to my gripes, kind of, about this toy. And this could just be me being a picky collector. You know, you might call me entitled, whatever. But it's disappointing that they didn't, you know, give him new weapons at all. You know, whether that be a sword, whether that be his, like, automatic guns that he had. You know, they didn't give him the cool spiked tire accessories for his shoulders, which actually, you know, we could have done it because he's got slots for accessories. But they opted not to. They decided to not incur the extra expenses, which I'm not surprised by, but I'm disappointed. If you're not really sure what I'm talking about, here is the Masterpiece G2 Sideswipe toy. One of my favorites. And these are the weapons I was mentioning. You got this large gun here, this like little Uzi looking thing here. He's got a sword that he comes with, which is very cool. Just gonna stick it in his back, have him hold it, whatever you want to do. And then he's also got the spiked tires on his shoulders. And then they even went so far as to remold his face from the regular Masterpiece Sideswipe and give him that gnarly grin that he kind of made famous in his comic books there that he appeared in. Now this Sideswipe sports a G2 Autobot logo, but that's not actually accurate to the original G2 Sideswipe toy. That one did have a standard Autobot logo, so he's actually more accurate in that regard. And this guy came with a G1 logo. I just decided, you know, put the G2 one on there to make him stand out more. So you can see kind of how these stack up. I mean, the colors, you know, the color layout and everything, it's great. It's pretty much perfect. But when you see how much they could have changed on this guy, just like they did with the Masterpiece toy, it is a little bit disappointing to see. Now, obviously, with his weapons being modular, you can put them in any configuration you want. You could combine them. You can, you know, put it on a shoulder, whatever you feel like. This is just the option I went with. This guy actually does have some battle damage, though it's significantly toned down from the G1 Sideswipe toy. That one, as you can see, has this like brushing effect all over his shins, where he just has like a little bit of dirt or something on the bottom. So they really toned it down a bit, and that's also my segue into doing the comparison shot. Aren't I clever? So yeah, you can see these two in their robot modes. No sculpting differences whatsoever. They are the exact same mold. So if you want to see a sculpting difference, you can always go and throw Red Alert in there too. Now, one thing that ends up unfortunately happening is because they opted for the cartoon accurate red helmet for Red Alert, it does end up making the G2 Sideswipe seem a little samey compared to him. You know, they both have the red helmet. Only real difference is that his horns are more pronounced. So it does make the character feel a bit more redundant. And again, makes it more of a niche collectible than a must-have. And one quick thing I would like to point out, he does have a couple of paint apps that the other toys don't have. He's got this little triangle in his pelvic area, and then he's got these details down here painted, which the other two, they never bothered doing. So, interesting. Up next we have Slamdance, and this is him in his tank and jet modes. Now, it's not officially called out anywhere on this toy's packaging, but these individual modes are supposed to have names. The red tank is formerly known as Grand Slam, and the blue jet is known as Rain Dance. Again, whether that's official to this incarnation of the character, I don't know, but I'm going to go ahead and roll with that. Which does raise the interesting question of whether or not Skytread's individual components have names. Who knows? So as I said before, he is a redeco / minor retool of Skytread, also known as Flywheels for you G1 purists out there. And Slamdance is meant to replicate a G1 cassette combiner along the same vein as characters like Leg Out, where you get two individual cassettes. They have some sort of non-cassette mode, be it a dinosaur, a vehicle, whatever, and then they combine to make a robot. So they do a good job of kind of recycling that concept into a mold that's already being used for the toy line. Obviously, there are no cassette modes for this, and they're sure as heck not going to fit inside a Blaster's chest. But, you know, it makes for a much better looking toy than the original, which was, you know, just different rectangles and stuff slapped together. And here are Skytread's components for comparison. You can see, as far as the vehicle modes are concerned, there's no molding differences, just significant deco differences between them. You can see Slamdance's Autobot insignia is much more pronounced on his cockpit than Skytread's Decepticon insignia is on his. You'll see there's a lot more paint on the two guns this time around, whereas Skytread's is mostly just this reddish plastic with some small gold highlights. And I would say just a little bit more paint to go around overall. One pretty interesting difference to notice is that while Skytread's tank module does have that battle damage paint, Slamdance's doesn't seem to have any at all. So that is interesting. It kind of falls in line with like the Generation Selects toys, you know, the weaponizers and all that. And here's Slamdance's robot mode. And if you are familiar with the character of old, you may notice that his colors are reversed from the classic configuration. Normally, Slamdance's lower body is blue while the upper body is red. But that's also because the jet used to form his legs and the tank formed his upper body. So, you know, they had to pick one because of the way the Skytread mold works. And rather than reverse the colors of the vehicle modes, they just reversed his body colors while still keeping his head red. So there's some consistency there. And speaking of the head, this is an all-new mold. It's like completely painted, which is interesting. And just looks very nice. Very bright yellow visor against like this dark red backdrop. All his tolerances are spot on. I have no issues with him. He's just as tight everywhere as my Skytread. Though I have heard reports of these breaking out of the package. Luckily, I didn't get a copy that had that issue at all. But speaking of Skytread, here he is. So you can see how they compare. And you can see that Slamdance just generally has more vibrant colors. His colors actually also broken up a lot more compared to old Skytreads. You can see he's got gray biceps and fists instead of them just being all the same color as the rest of his arms, like on Skytread there. His pelvic piece is also molded in blue, of all things. You can see that on the back, though it is painted red toward the top, silver toward the bottom on the front. Again, whereas Skytread's are just brown, like his legs and everything. So I just think overall, paint-wise and plastic color-wise, Slamdance pulls things off a little bit better. He's less, monotonous looking, and his colors just pop a little bit better. Skytread, I'm happy we got a Flywheels toy. I'm happy they stuck to the original colors for accuracy's sake, but he's just got ugly colors, brown and it's like burgundy, not very attractive. Now, obviously, these guys being the same mold, it means that their halves are compatible with each other, and then by extension, Slamdance is compatible with Power of the Prime's Battle Trap. So if you want to have a little bit of fun with your toys and go crazy, you can certainly do that. Got all sorts of weird colors going on here. And if an action figure can bring some extra play value, it's always a win. Lastly, we have the Battlemaster Trenchfoot. And you can see him here wielding his little gun on his arm, or he could, attach it to his back. He's got his cool little fire blast effect here. And he's a bit of an enigma, because as far as anyone knows, he is an original character. He does seem color matched to Sideswipe, so I imagine he's supposed to be the combat clone Sideswipe's Battlemaster partner. Though a lot of people have pointed out that he does also share colors with Pinpointer, who was the old Target Master companion of Crosshairs, who is getting a toy later in this toy line. Now, the color layouts are all wrong for the character. They're basically backwards for him, and obviously he doesn't have the name Pinpointer. But some people speculate that, maybe it is him, and maybe this is the new trademark-friendly name. So far, I haven't seen any confirmation or denials from Hasbro about that being the case. So it's up to you. You can imagine him as a new character. You can go ahead and put him with your Crosshairs whenever you get him, if you want to. Now, the one thing that is unfortunate, and it seems to be the case with the Battlemasters very often, is that he is just a straight redeco of the previously released Calibers Decepticon. So, of course, I have Calibers here, so you can see how they compare. And they're very similar for their primary color. And when I say primary, I mean the one that's used the most on their body, which is this black color. Might even be the same exact plastic color. I don't see much of a difference. Obviously, the torsos are molded and painted in very different colors from each other, and the fire blast effects are completely different, so at least there's that variety there. You don't just get the same purple, which wouldn't really make sense for an Autobot anyway. So yeah, quality mold, but it's definitely seen more than its fair share of use, especially since this mold is already a redeco of something else. And to demonstrate what I was talking about as far as the color matching, here we have Sideswipe wielding Mr. Trenchfoot, and you can see that they look really good together. I'm pretty sure they are meant to be a pair. And, I think the end result of this leads to a really high quality display piece that you can have on your shelf or your little diorama, whatever you want it to be. But anyway, I think that's going to wrap up our look at the new Autobot Alphastrike Counterforce box set. It's a fun little set. Little on the pricey side for what you get, but that's pretty typical of the Amazon exclusives. They tend to have a few dollars upcharge for their sets. Nothing outlandish, nothing along the lines of like the old Collectors Club exclusives. Oh, and I would be completely remiss to leave out the fact that the original working name for this that showed up in listings, it was the Firestormers box set. So, another reference to Generation 2 comics. Firestormers were kind of like a crack team of Autobots that were particularly violent in their methods, something akin to the Wreckers. And they were a real thorn in the side for G-Axis. And Sideswipe was shown to apparently be one of the Firestormers in his Generation 2 incarnation. So, it was a fitting name, good working title. I kind of wish they would have kept it. Would have liked to see that officialized in modern, media. But they decided to change the name for whatever reason. Personally, I think they're missing out. I very much like this set. it tickles my G2 funny bone a little bit. Lets you get this really nice, often ignored character in the form of Slamdance. Really cool Battle Master that, if you want, you can repurpose as Crosshair's partner. And I think, more serious collectors will really enjoy this. Now, as far as casual fans of the franchise, I don't think there's going to be a lot of interest. A lot of them don't know who Slamdance is. They probably aren't very familiar with Generation 2 and why Sideswipe is, mostly black now. So, if you're not a completionist or not a big G2 fan, this probably really isn't for you, and you can probably skip it without any kind of heartache. And to be completely honest, because I am recording this so late after the release, I'm not even sure if they're still in stock at Amazon. Hopefully they are. And if so, it's up to you if you think it's worth buying or not. Again, I'm absolutely thrilled with this pack, and I think it really complements the Decepticon version very well. But of course, that is my take on these. Perhaps yours is different. Why don't you let me know in the comments section. If you enjoyed this review, make sure to toss it a like. It always very much helps out the channel and helps it to grow and, be shared with more fine folks like yourself. If you want to see more videos like this one or any of my other content, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you always get a heads up when I post something new. I thank you all for joining me today, and with all that said, I will see you next time.